Hello everyone, I am Ste and this is Mpilo, and today we are talking about a lot of things. The first thing is Yusuf Maart a better player compared to Edson Castillo? And me, I will say yes any day of the week because of what it gives us as a team. Think about it. Yusuf Maart comes to Kaizer Chiefs and then Watazwane plays him, right? And then after Watazwane is sacked, Unsegi comes in, he still plays him. And then after that, Kevin Johnson comes in, he still plays him. And here you are guys complaining about the fact that, oh, Yusuf Maart is playing ahead of Castillo. What do you mean? Of course he's going to play ahead of Castillo because there is something special about him that all these coaches see, which is his work rate, which you guys never talk about when it comes to Castillo, by the way. Because Castillo is giving away passes here and there, but nothing that comes from you. You're not saying that Castillo is out of games and you guys don't say anything about that. But you are always ready to criticize Maart and talk about how he passes ball backwards and sideways. But when Castillo does that, you guys don't say anything about it. And also, just on top of the fact that that man is a workaholic and has been chosen to be a starter by 3 different coaches, you guys are also not mentioning the fact that when it comes to Maart, Castillo, and Mthethwa, that partnership was like all over because we all felt like it was a bit too defensive. Castillo goes to the international break, and then what happens is that he comes back, and then there's already Maart, no Mthethwa, no Ngcobo, they were playing well together. Now, are you telling me that we are going to take apart a partnership that's already working just because we want to feature Castillo? Because you guys have an agenda, you must admit to that. Because think about it. Lento yenu yokuthi uMaart nje uyohleze under microscope, the smallest thing it does nhlezi nemnaka. I feel like nina nje ne-agenda. That's all I'm gonna say. Cha thina sinayo agenda, asinayo nje agenda. Tina, what we are saying is that Maart might be a good player, but he's not as good as Castillo. Oh. Think about it. In the time that Maart has been at Kaizer Chiefs, Castillo has had more impact than Yusuf Maart. Like, he has scored goals, he has assisted, despite the fact that at times he's being played out of position. So we're not going to sit here and debate who's giving Chiefs more, because defensively, if Maart was so good defensively, then what was the need of getting Mthethwa? Because if Maart was such a good defensive midfielder, then we wouldn't have had to go out and get Mthethwa. He's not. So we got to Mthethwa, and we also got to Castillo, who initially came to be a defensive midfielder, but he ended up playing as an 8, but now that 8 is now clashing with Maart, and Maart is going to be chosen over anyone at this point. Of course. And now you guys are telling us, no, it's because there's an agenda. This has nothing to do with agenda. It has to do with the impact that the guy has on the field of play. Because even now, we're going to talk about creativity later on, but we're complaining about creativity, but in our midfield, we're only playing one creative player, and then Mthethwa no Maart bona kumele ba defend. Yet someone who can give us more goals is sitting there in the bench for 80 minutes. Guys, nani nje kutalent enisho ibuyingenza sense. Okay, so ukuze singeke ilento ithathe isikhathi eside, I'll just leave it here and say, let's see how these guys, both of them, how they do in the second half of the season. And then maybe we can have this discussion at the end of the season. But in the meantime, I also want to ask you guys, who do you think is better, and what are your reasons why you choose Maart or Castillo over Maart or vice versa? Castillo, because I want us to talk about another interesting thing, which is the problem with Chiefs. Is it supply or is it the strikers themselves? Because I think there is this one guy who always comments on your channel, Mandla. He said something that I read, and I thought to myself, it does make sense, because he talked about how the problem with the strikers that Chiefs has is the fact that they are not making enough movement, and Dupree, when he plays, it does make movement for everyone else, and because of that, then Chiefs is able to create chances. So to me, then that makes it seem like the problem is not the creativity, but it's the movement of the strikers. And don't be a hypocrite. Of course it is. The same person was complaining about Upimengimana last season, about how it's different. It's different. Not that great. And manje masekuranga no Gonzalez ngobe yabatanda. You are now saying, oh, Batanda, they are not the problem, but the problem is the fact that we are not getting enough supply. We are not giving them enough balls into the box. So for me, I strongly believe that the strikers, because they've come to a team, they must adapt to the way that the team plays, to the system of the team, and not just say, you know what, everyone in this team must try and accommodate me, and if not, I'm gonna throw a tantrum because me now I was scoring goals wherever there I came from. So now it doesn't make sense for the team to change their whole style to just fit one striker because they are not Messi. We can change a style for Messi to make it sure that it fits Messi because he's Messi, I like Messi. But everyone else, we can't say things like that. And number two, what I want to address about our striker situation is the fact that there are some crosses where they arrive late and you tell me about how it's because they are too deep in midfield and that is why they are not getting to the end of the balls. But I look at a striker like Harry Kane or Lalil Bayern. He was playing for Tottenham. And he was doing this even when he was at Tottenham. He drops into midfield, but he still gets in the box in time. You see him in England, he does the same thing. He drops into midfield, but he still gets there. So maybe movement, yeah, but because even nala midfield, ngeke usho ngoba uhlezi uthi badlaliswa midfield kodwa bezistrike. But when I look at them, it's not like if they make that much impact even in midfield. And that's why I'm saying myself that I think the strikers are the problem because yina sebenzile for Chiefs because Dupree, they do something. But if you look at the strikers that we have, I don't think they're good enough. And I think we should go out and get better strikers. Fethu ngeke kodwa-ke siqale manje sicompare uKane no Caleb. Why not? Because because obviously, as much as you want them to play a Kane-like style, but you're not really gonna get the same output. He's playing in Europe for Bayern for a reason because he's one of the most elite strikers we've ever seen. But anyway, we're not there. Let's come back to SA because you are talking about the team will not have to change their entire style just because they want to fit one player. But the issue, that's why it is, right, Uguti, then don't recruit players who play like that if you're not going to play them like that. Because if Uranga is a prolific goal scorer or a box striker who sits in the box and waits for opportunities, now when uzomlanda utakazo adapta kwi-team yakho kanjani, because now you are basically setting yourself up and setting up the striker for failure because you cannot get someone or box striker and then suzomdlalisa ngathi angadlala esiswini. Look at Man City even. In Man City last year, a lot of people were criticizing them of how Haaland had changed the way they played because they knew the kind of player that Haaland was. He wasn't like a striker who's just going to what's the word, who's going to just wait on the box all the time. Sometimes he works with those counters. Sometimes he runs in behind. But usually they just pass the ball around. But when their striker came, they tried to find a way to accommodate him to the style of play. It wasn't just, you are Haaland. I am Pep Guardiola. I'm going to do what I want. If you don't adapt to what I want, then you are gone. It didn't happen like that. So if about coaches, that's why some other day we're going to talk about coaching. If the coaches are not seeing the need to make the style conducive or the conducive to everyone who's playing in the team, because why get a player who's going to play differently and then they're not playing the same way? And also it's a different type of striker altogether. If you want to have about Dupree as your strikers, then you might as well, you have Dupree, go get Reyners because it's going to do the same thing that Dupree does. But for you to expect the strikers that you have to have as much movement as Dupree has, look at what happened with Ranga when he first got there. Because they were asking him to run around a lot. First 2 games, he's already injured. Why is that happening? Because there's too much running around and it might get too much for the team and the players. Look at how many players are getting injured. But that's just a side note. Even Namanj, we're just talking about Mart and Castillo. It's the same thing that is happening. Guti. They are not getting enough balls from midfield because they were playing 3 players of the same profile in midfield. And now they have brought on Umshini. And Umshini, the problem with Umshini, he becomes the only creative player in that midfield. And what ends up happening, once he's man marked, you are left with Mart, you are left with Mthethwa. Both of those players are majorly defensive. They are better defensive, but when you're going to ask them to do something offensively, then you're going to have a problem. So now you're expecting Umshini to be the only creative player. Nothing happens, he gets nullified, and then at the end of the day, you're going to depend on your wingers to score goals because there is no other source of creativity that's coming in the team. So once again, the coach had a whole month. I hope that he used this time wisely to kind of look at the players that he has and see how we can make the style fit all of them. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and tell me, who do you agree with, Uste no Mumpilo? Because well, they had a quite a conversation. Yeah, and if you like this video, please do like it, and also if you want me to make more of these kind of videos, you can let me know down on the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals Alpelumo.